So this is my setup. I have this big container. Some of you maybe have the smaller container, and it doesn't make a difference, it's the same. But what I'm using is this Louvel yogurt maker. And then here is the tablets that I'm using. But since I've done this yogurt before, I actually have a starter already, which I use I have them in my fridge. So I take it out, one ice cube, about one ice cube, 1.5, 2 ice cubes. And I will use that instead, but just to show so you know what to do. And then here, this is milk and this is cream. I will use about 8 deciliters, almost 1 liter, probably I'll use this much milk. And then this is only 1 deciliter and this is 3. So let's say about 4 deciliters of cream and then about 7, 8 deciliters of regular milk. And some of you will live in Brazil and I would suggest ultra processed milk and don't use raw milk for this. Never use raw milk for this recipe because we will ferment it for 36 hours. And if you use raw milk, there is a big chance that you will also reproduce a lot of bad bacteria. And you will also need to use this thing called inulin, which is we call it a prebiotic. And this is what the bacteria will need to have inside the milk and the cream so that they also have something to feed on so they can multiply a little bit faster. So what I will do in this first step is I will take about a spoon of this. I will put it in here. And then I will take a little bit of milk and I will heat it up. So I will let this be heated because sometimes the inulin can have a little bit of bad bacteria, let's say, but very, very small percentage. So what we do is we put this together. I will put all the milk and all the cream that I'm gonna use, I'm gonna put in here together with the inulin. All right, so I'm gonna show how that looks. Okay, so as I said, for the amount that we're using, something about 2 sizes of this. You see, so it's a regular spoon, about 2 sizes. And usually I start by sprinkling it a little bit for it not to be too cloggy. And then I just add some of the milk. I'm trying to do this with one hand. But I add a little bit of the milk. Okay. Just like that. And then I start to heat up just to not full, but like somewhere in the middle, just to make it a little bit hot, because when the milk gets hot, it's easier to have the inulin come into the liquid, because we don't want lumps, we don't want big chunks of this inulin. So I added 1 of those spoons. I will add a little bit more, like one more spoon, so to say, that you saw, and then I will show the next step. So here is the other spoon. You see, it's not so much. 2 of these spoons is enough for the quantity. Then just sprinkle it over here. And now already this little milk that is here is starting to become lukewarm. And you see, it's a little bit easier then to mix this around. And make sure you don't want, you see, like here is lumps. You don't want too much lumps. So just stir it around. And then I go ahead and I add all the milk that I need. Probably somewhere right there. And then I will also add the cream inside this. So at this step, as you can see, I have all the milk, all the cream and the milk, no bacteria inside yet, right? So this is only milk and cream and the inulin, right? And what we want to do, we're gonna heat this up to about 88, 90 degrees Celsius. We don't want it boiling, but 88, 90 degrees Celsius. And for that, I have this thermometer. So what I do is I clean this, and it's only disinfected. All this has been disinfected before. And I forgot to say that, of course, all this bench, this one inside here, all this is disinfected. I used a little bit of alcohol and I washed this properly, you know, so all the utensils, everything needs to be disinfected so you don't get too much possibilities of bacteria. So what I will do, I will stir this around until it comes to that heat of 88 to 90 degrees Celsius, and then I will keep it there for about 5 to 10 minutes, all right? And then I'll show you the next step. So it's good if you have some kind of thermometer. You don't have to have a fancy one like I did here, but yeah, you can use any one that sometimes there is on the side, a display, and then you just put it in like that, just to check a little bit how hot it is, okay? All right, so as you can see here, it almost came up to 92, 93, 94 degrees. So it's not that you need to be so precise, you know, that it has to be between 88 and 90. It's just you want this to come in a good heat, so you kill off any bacteria that wouldn't be good. And then here, what we need to do is we need to have this milk come down to 36 degrees Celsius. And for that, I have prepared already a water bath. So this is ice cold. And of course, if you live in a warmer climate, or if there's a summer, you know, and then you can't, maybe you use ice, you know. But just be careful that you're not putting water running as you're doing this, because sometimes, of course, if you have the water running, then also you can have some bacteria, you know, that can run from the water, or they're splashing and getting in there. So you just want everything still and calm, and then here you just let it cool down to 36 degrees Celsius. Okay. Okay, so we just made this one to cool down, so it's about 36, 37 degrees. So what we're gonna do now, this is prepared, and now we're gonna take the actual capsules of bacteria. And remember, as I said, in the future, once you made one of these, you can keep some of that in the fridge and make ice cubes, so you can use this instead, the starter, so you don't have to always go like this, okay? And yeah, in the beginning, when you use these tablets, when you do your first batch, it's not sometimes like pure yogurt, because it needs some time to develop. But as you can see, this one is very thick, you see? So this is a second generation. But if I would show you, maybe I'll do so. I'm gonna bring one batch. So just to show you here, this is a batch I made. That is a first batch. I made this with only the tablet or the capsule. You see, it's a little bit slimy almost. And this is very common. And you see there are some parts that are almost like cheese. But when you make it one time like this and you save it for the fridge, and you add this inside, it's gonna be a really thick, really nice yogurt. So please have patience if it gets a little bit strange in the beginning. Anyways, so what we do, this, as I said, everything is being disinfected. Not sterilized, but disinfected. I put alcohol on everything with a cloth, and I cleaned it up, so it's not gonna be anything unnecessary bacteria. So what I do, I take this and I pull a little bit of this milk and cream that I made with the inulin, just a little bit in the bottom. And this time, just to show, I will take one capsule just to show, and I also will take this just for this video. So as you can see, the capsules are there. I take one like that, and I'm gonna separate it. So I separate it, and then I pull all the what's inside. I put it, so you see it's gonna be empty like that. Sometimes I use 2 just to be sure, but because I have this, I use this and that. But you can use 1 or 2 is enough. One, they say 1 is enough. If you want to be really sure, you can use 2. Anyway, so now there is this little bit inside. I make sure again that is smooth, that I blend it all together. And then just to show you, in this case, I will also take all of this. I will put it inside here. And I will stir it around so there's no lumps. And then you see I put in the rest of the milk, the cream, 1 tablet and that. And then I stir it around a little bit. I put the lid on. And of course, then if you have the other version that has this 4 smaller, you just put this blend, when everything is blended, you just put them in each. Make sure to give a little, even in those smaller ones, give a little space, because this bacteria, it needs some oxygen. So you never want to go full capacity. Always give a little bit of space. And yeah, then you take your yogurt, you put it here in the middle, and then you need to fill this with water. And on the back side, you have, it shows to what extent of water you should put in. So I put the, as you can see, I put the water to its limits now. And then put this on. And then you see it's not turned on now, but I put here on temperature and time. So the time, we want 36 hours. 36 hours. And then you press again and it shifts to temperature. And also this, we want 36 degrees. So you see, time 36, temperature 36. And then you press confirm. There we go. And you can see it went from, so how you know it's on, it went from blinking like this to it's gonna shift very slowly. So when it's not blinking like that anymore, you know it's on, right? So this is it. You put it on like that for this amount of hours, and when then it's done, you're free to enjoy, but it's gonna be hot, right? It's gonna be 36 degrees. So what you do, when it's done, you take it out and you put the containers into the fridge for like 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, let's say 6 hours. Let it cool down a little bit and let it be a little bit more, collect itself, so it's not so watery maybe, and then really enjoy it. So now after 36 hours, it's ready. And then carefully lifting this. And this is how it looks. So you have, from the cream, like the top part is more firm, and the bottom part usually is more runny. So I would put this in the fridge for a few hours, and then you're gonna see how it looks. And here we are, after some hours, it's been in the fridge. You see, so it's very stable. And what I do usually, I take 1 spoon of this, I put it in here. So for the next time I do, I have a batch already I can use. And you can do this 5 times. To take 1 spoon and then do again, take a spoon. And then after 5 times, I take an ice cube that I showed earlier in this video. And then of course I've disinfected both the spoon and this one and the lid. So during the 2 weeks, 3 weeks that it will be in here, it's in a safe container, so to say. So this is how it looks. So what we want to look at is that it doesn't smell bad and that it's not discolored. All right, so we don't, because that's sign of contamination. So you see here, it's very creamy. See, very creamy. So I would take like the layer below, something like that. And I would save this for the next batch. So when you open up the lid of the yogurt, you do want to smell, and the smell is a little bit like sour cream, so it's not a strong smell. If you feel any strong smell or like something like a fart or something like that, then it means it's contaminated and you need to discard it and start again. And I mean, depending on where you live in the world, you know, you're gonna have different bacteria and maybe mold. And so if it has any color, except what I showed in the batch I did, then it also means it's contaminated and we don't want to eat that. Then it's not good for us. So it takes some time. Sometimes it takes a few times to learn it, or you know, just to make sure that is the disaffected area and stuff like that. But you don't have to overdo it. Usually I just take boiling water and I put it on the spoons and on the containers. Just boiling water is enough usually. And then I do a little bit on the bench here, you know, like on the bench I put some alcohol just to be sure, you know, but usually that works. So I wish you all the best to make this beautiful yogurt for your health and for your happiness. Bye-bye.